Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to everyone. Now we will start this session. Let me start with Bismillah. Walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Welcome everyone to this last session of the day. And it's my pleasure to be chair of this session. And my name is Necmettin, and I'm Associate Professor of Islamic Law at Erbakan University in Konya. Today in this session, we have 3 papers and three scholars from Iran, and we will have 15 minutes for each paper and presenter. If you have any questions for the presenters, you can write your questions or you can raise your questions personally after all the 3 presentations are completed. Without further ado, let's start with the first speaker. Actually, all speakers are from Iran. Maybe so we should go to Iran and it would be easier. But now this is the organization of the Erbakan University, so maybe it's proper to do in this way. So the first speaker is, let me start with the list, Assistant Professor Dr. Zehra Muhakkigian. And she is Assistant Professor of Quranic Studies at Institute for Humanities and Cultural Studies in Tehran. And the title of her paper is Hidden Identities, Arabian Goddesses in Quranic Verses. Dr. Zehra, the floor is yours, and you have 15 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much I forget my words, unfortunately. I want to share my files, if you let me, at the first, and if you see my. Okay, can you see my file?
Yes.
Okay. In the name of God. My article is about, as you see, hidden identities, Arabian goddesses in Quranic verses. In this article, I have tried to read the Surah An-Najm based on the Arabian context and based on the our Arabian milieu. My main assumption in this article is that Surah An-Najm, from beginning to the end, is comparing the features of Allah to the features of the Arabian goddesses. And therefore, this surah tries to show that what pagans attributed to their deities mainly belong to Allah. In this article, I have shown that the important key and what established my presumptions and what joined the different verses of the surah to each other is the star Zohra, that was famous among other Semitic peoples by the name Venus. This Venus or star Zohra in the Surah An-Najm, in the first verse of this surah, has been directly referred, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى. And in other verses of this surah, this star has been referred implicitly or indirectly. If we study the trace of Zohra in very ancient beliefs of the Arabs and other Semitic peoples, and if we investigate her trace and her functions as well as her different names and titles, we understand that Arabian goddesses, namely Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, that were famous goddesses and famous deities among the pre-Islamic Arab before the Quran, were 3 different manifestations of the star Zohra. And in their ancient roots, these 3 goddesses were their names and titles and functions of the star Zohra. It means that these three goddesses mentioned in Surahs An-Najm were shaped and created from the star Zohra and her worshipping. Now, considering the verses of Surah An-Najm, it seems that the Quran are numbering and are mentioning the traits and functions of this star and they and her three manifestations. And in the second part, we can see that the Quran seemingly removed these traits from these Arabian goddesses and then attributed their features to Allah. For showing this process, first of all, I have studied the traits of Star Zohra among the ancient beliefs and different Semitic peoples in ancient times and introduce her different names, her different traits, her different functions in different parts of the region. Mesopotamia, North and South Arabia, as well as Central of Arabia. In the part 2 and in the second step in my article, I revealed that each of these goddesses in which way and how were related to Zohra. And I show the way that were related to this star. In this part, I show that which similarities was among from this star was a privilege among the Arabs. And in this part, means part 2, I used both pre-Islamic evidence, pre-Islamic source, and also pre-Islamic source. In the second part of my article, I have shown that the most important features of these goddesses are referring in Surah An-Najm and show that then they attributed to Allah. Now I follow and review this part of my article with you and read my notes for you. When we study the different features of the Arabian goddesses, we understand that this feature can be categorized in the following categories. 1. The first category comprises the characteristics that merely announce the role of the goddess as a supportive mother over the destiny of man and world. The implication is that these goddesses, especially Manat, manage the various events of human life and are responsible for its up and downs until death. 2. In the second category, the goddess appears as a wife and lady of the house and is considered the source of life and blessing and enhancer of human sustenance. Such characteristics as fertility and childbirth fall into this category, and the representative figure is Allat, goddess Allat. Thirdly, the goddess appears as the mistress, reflecting such characteristics as sexual love and lust, and thus managing sexual relations between males and females. Al-Uzza is the prominent figure in exhibiting these characteristics. In the fourth category, the goddess is an omnipotent warrior, having the power to eradicate mankind and destroy nature. Al-Uzza and Allat are two sources of such powers. So, as you can see, 4 features like destiny, fertility and blessing, erotic love and sexual desire, and finally wrath and destruction are the main features and main functions of the Arabian goddesses in Surah An-Najm. We will see that all these characteristics are implied in the verses 31 to 46 of Surah An-Najm. First of all is the destiny, fate, or fate. Some verses in Surah An-Najm seem to refer to pre-Islamic belief that these goddesses were considered the owners of the destiny of man and world. Such implications as the following allowed to this belief: punisher and rewarder of human actions and efforts. ليجزي الذين أساءوا بما عملوا ويجزي الذين أحسنوا بالحسنى. Possessor and ruler of the earth and heavens. ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. Aware of unseen and the news of the past and future. أعطى وأكدى علم الغيب. Ruler over the human states and giver of joys and sorrows. أضحك وأبكى. Aware of the time and human birth and death. أمات وأحيا. And finally, the Lord of the star الشعرى. وأنه هو رب الشعرى, which was venerated by pre-Islamic Arabs. Eluding the maternal traits, these implications seem to be well comparable to the characteristics of the goddesses Manat among the pagans. Indeed, the two attributes, owner and ruler, in the above implications are mainly related to the characteristics of mother goddesses in matrilineal societies. The above verses now introduce Allah, the only one God of Islam, as the unique owner of the world and the only ruler over the human destiny, rejecting the beliefs of those who consider this ownership and this rulership exclusive to goddesses like Manat. Fertility and blessing. The second category of the characteristics found in the verses of Surah An-Najm, which are related to fertility, childbirth, blessing, and sustenance, include the first creation from the Great Mother, the earth, أنشأكم من الأرض, the formation of the fetus in the womb and the birth of child, أجنة في بطون أمهاتكم, the enricher of human beings and the provider of their sustenance, أغنى وأقنى, the giver of life and the reviver in the next world, نشأة الأخرى. These characteristics seems to reveal mainly the feminine traits of these goddesses, which are mostly comparable to the traits of a spouse and housewife, because fertility and pregnancy and childbirth are the characteristics of a woman who has a husband and forms a family. She, as a mother, also provides food during childhood. Such beliefs and themes are quite comparable to the position of the goddess Allah among the pre-Islamic Arabs and reveal her functions among the pagans. However, the verses also reject such beliefs and reveal that Allah, the only one God of Islam, performs all these functions and is the sources of all these motherly traits. Erotic love and sexual desire. The third category of characteristics found in a passage of Surah An-Najm concern the mating of two sexes. الزوجين الذكر والأنثى من نطفة إذا تمنى. The content of this passage is well comparable to the physical and sexual characteristics of the goddess Al-Uzza mentioned earlier. In this way, the verses seem to illustrate the erotic character of the goddess Al-Uzza and confirm the sexual traits and desires of two sexes. Now in this passage, Allah is introduced as the creator of this mating and this sexual bonding. In other words, also the origin of all acts is Allah. These verses, in the context of Muhammad's time, seek to oppose the beliefs of the pagans who considered these feminine traits belonging to gods other than Allah, like Al-Uzza. And final trace is wrath and destruction. Surah An-Najm also seems to refer to the pre-Islamic belief that these goddesses, while manifesting all feminine traits and motherly compassion, are capable of being wrath and destructive. Attributes such as wrath upon the peoples of Ad and Thamud, the people of Nuh and Mu'tafika, in the verse 40 to 43, and reports of their destructions illustrate this point. These attributes, as we have seen, are quite comparable to the position of Al-Uzza and Al-Lat as the goddesses of might and wherefore. In this passage too, Allah has been introduced as the source of such powers, and the pagan beliefs in this regard, as in all previous cases, have been categorically denied. So, as we can see, the features of the Arabian goddesses that mentioned in the Surah An-Najm all have been removed from these goddesses and then attributed to Allah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zehra, for this very interesting presentation. This presentation actually combines tafsir and mythology and anthropology to some extent and gives us a new perspective. If you have any questions, you can share your questions in the chat boxes. And then after the three presentations, inshallah, I will ask these questions to the presenters. So I'm now passing to the second speaker. The second speaker in this session is Dr. Amina Rahmani, and she works at Islamic Azad University in Iran, and the title of her paper is Study of Hurufism Sect and Abul Afia Sect. So it's Hurufism, right? Al-Hurufiyya, and not, there's a typo in the title. So the study of Hurufism sect and Abu Afia sect. Dr. Amina, the floor is yours, and you have also 15 minutes for the presentation.
Thank you. I want to share my...
You want to share your screen?
Okay. Yes, if I could. I don't know how. I don't know how to share my PowerPoint.
Abdul Samet, can you give her the...
Yes, I'm show you. So on the right side, there is a button slides.
Okay. On the
you
right.
Are clicking here, and then add a new presentation, then maybe number one, and then from here you can upload it from your computer.
Okay.
And then you have click the preview button, and then you can start it. Or you can use the share my display button. Is easier to use.
Where is the button? Share my screen button.
On the top, near the microphone.
Okay. On the top middle of the screen, there is your video and your microphone, and then turn screen share on button. Did you see that? Up, up, up. Did you see?
Yes, I see.
Turn screen share on button, so it's easier. Just do it.
Yes.
We are used to Zoom, but this is another system, so it's not easy. Did it work for you?
Yes, but
You have to click on turn screen share on the middle of the screen. There is the mic,
yes, I do this.
and then you have, I think you have to choose what you want to share. It's okay. This is the last session, so we have time. If this didn't work for you, let's. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Now we can see, but it's not clear. Just a minute. Yes, now we can see your screen. You can start now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As you said, my name is Amina Rahmani, and I'm PhD candidate of Azad University Science and Research Branch, Tehran, Iran, and I'm very glad for participate in this symposium. My topic of my lecture is a study of Hurufism sect and Abul Afia sect. At first time I show a speech plan, my lecture. Part 1 is Hurufism, founders history, Hurufism thoughts, theology, cosmology, and include of cosmology and anthropology, after death and resurrection. Part 2 is about Abul Afia sect, founders history, mysticism, theology, eschatology, and finally about conclusion. Part 1, Hurufism, founders history. In the 7th century Hijri, due to Mughal invasions, there was unrest and political and social turmoil among the people. This led people to turn to Isolationist ideas, and Sufism increased. Fazlullah Astarabadi founded the Hurufism sect during this period. He was born 740 Hijri or 1340 after Christianity. He was also known as Halal Khor, means a person just eat halal, and owner of interpretation. He left Astarabad at a young age and traveled to different cities. He mysteriously saw prophets such as Jesus, Solomon, Muhammad, and Abraham in his dreams, and this happened are the beginning of the emergence of his spiritual leadership. In Ramadan of year 775 Hijri or 1375 after Christianity, in Tabriz, the glory of God manifested on him. Fazlullah was killed in 786 Hijri or 1394 after Christianity by the order of Taimur and by Miran Shah. In this slide, I am showing Hurufism thought. The root of Fazlullah's ideas can be found in other religions and denominations. Abdul Baghi Gulpnarli says of Fazlullah, Fazlullah had accepted the esoteric method and imitated it from a young age. He was even familiar with the Old Testament and could argue meaning with these books. He had probably studied Ibn Arabi's works as well, and he knew Arabic and was fluent in Iranian literature. Fazlullah had learned organizational interpretations and struggled from the Ismailis, although he had taken his beliefs from Shias and Sunnis. He had clearly stated his oppositions to both groups. In this slide is continuing Rufism thought. They believe existence is based on 32 Arabic letters and 23 Arabic letters and 32 Persian letters. Prophet Muhammad spoke 23 Arabic letters, and the Quran was revealed with the same letters. And the book Javdanname, or Eternal Book, written by Fazlullah, is in Persian, which has 32 letters in Persian. Instead of 4 Persian letters that are not in Arabic, there are the letters La in Arabic. Letters are formally divided into 3 categories: straight, curved, and circular. These 3 forms are similar the 3 human state in prayer. Fazlullah believed that the world is based on the 3 principles of prophecy, imamat, and divinity. The stage of prophecy that ended with the coming of Muhammad, and the stage of imamat which started from Ali and continued until the 11th Imam. Third stage of divinity, which began with the advent of Fazlullah. Fazlullah was influenced by Shiism by recognizing the imamat. They believe in infallibility for the imams. This is a slide about theology in Hurufism sect. The Hurufism believe in 2 types of divine manifestations. First, he appeared to God in the form of Adam, who had created his own example. Second, he appeared in his word. And Hurufism believed of divine identity to Fazlullah. Cosmology. The Hurufism referring to verse 82 of Surah Yasin, in which God created the world with the word Kun. The letter expresses the main structure of each creature. This kind of belief can be seen in Neopolitic views and the Mandaean religion. Anthropology in Hurufism sect. Philosophically, it was the core of human Hurufism ideas. He was the standard of everything. From the Hurufism point of view, man as a son of Adam is not only created in the form of God and has a divine existence and is a small world or alam-e-saghir, but man is also an example of a big world, alam-e-kabir. According to Hurufism, man is a book of God and is on the same level with the Quran, which is the book of God. After death and resurrection. After death, people cross the Sirat bridge and enter the 8th gate of paradise. All of these people are 33 years old. That is the age when the glory of God was manifested by Fazlullah. The people of paradise will be rewarded for the prayers they have received. The people of hell will be punished for disgracing human lines. The most important gift of those who enter heaven is to see the face of divinity. Some Hurufism believe paradise is transferred to this world. Some of these Hurufism claim to be in paradise, so there is no religious obligation for them. But Fazlullah emphasized the importance of prayer and the religious obligation. Regarding the resurrection, Hurufism believed that Fazlullah considered himself the or Christ who will appear in the Part 2 about Abu Founder's history. Ibrahim Samuel Abu Afiyah was born in 13th century in Spain. Spain in 13th century was the first gateway to the achievement of Islamic translation, thought, and mysticism from east to west. Abu Afiyah left for Palestine at a young age. He read Ibn Maymun's book, The Guide for the Perplexed, with the guidance of Halil ibn Samuel and Ronai. He read the commentary on Sefer Yassira with Baruch Tugarmi, and Abul Afia was a religiously tolerant man, and his treatment of non-Jews caused doubt on his religious affiliations. Abul Afia was opposite to Christianity and symbolism of the Kabbalah mysticism of his time and criticized them. Mysticism of Abul Afia. From the Talmudic period onward, there were mystical ideas about numbers. In the 13th century, there was evidence of theological debates between the great Muslim mystic Ibn Arabic and Jewish rabbi about the nature of the letter of the Bible. Abul Afia called his system and method the science of combining letters, the science with the help of letters. Their arranging and combination was a guide for deep thinking. The goal of Abul Afia's mysticism to unseal the soul, to untie the knots which bind it, bound the individual. He believed that with the help of Hebrew letters, a deeper view of the soul could be found. Abul Afia's view of practical prophetic mysticism is similar to that of yoga. The subject of mystical unity is new in Abul Afia's mysticism and does not exist in traditional Jewish mysticism. Theology in Abul Afia's sect. Abul Afia believed that God is the creator of the world. Satan moved the world, and he is the founder of the laws of it. Eschatology. Abul Afia was likened to the prophet Isaiah, and he had predicted the resurrection. He considered himself the Messiah, and in 1271, after Christianity, he made his first prophetic call. And finally, conclusion is the similarity between the two Semitic languages, Arabic and Hebrew, led each to interpret their holy book, Bible and Quran, into different cultural contexts through the numerical value of the letters of the alphabet. The influence of Ibn Arabi can be clearly seen in these two sects. And finally, this theory is rejected that Tabriz was the crossroad of merchant and trade in the 8th Hijris, or 14 after Christianity, and may have influenced that belief of the tribes there, because this idea is in Iranian ancient religion. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Amina, for this presentation. Also a very interesting topic. I had heard before about the Hurufiya sect, which is also well known in Turkey or in the scholarly areas. But I didn't know about the other sect, Abul Afia sect. And Hurufiya has also affected many Muslims also in Turkey, some scholars also in Turkey, and especially the abjad calculation, as you know, calculating the abjad number of the words has sometimes become an obsession for some people. They always look at Quran or at the Sunnah, and they calculate the abjad number of the verses and try to extract some meaning, which is a part of the Hurufiya. So this also reminds me about the Hollywood movie, you know, A Beautiful Mind. A Beautiful Mind is a Hollywood movie by or about the mathematician John Nash, who was also obsessed with
Yes.
words and numbers and cryptology, etc. So this is a very interesting topic, hurufism, hurufiya.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So the third and the last speaker, let's go with her. And let me remind that if you have any questions, you can write it in the chat box. The third and last speaker today is Sevda Ebul Hasan Mukattemi. I hope my pronunciation is okay. And she is a PhD candidate in Islamic arts at Tabriz Islamic Art University in Iran. And her paper title is Content Analysis of Illustration of Rumi's Miracles in Ottoman Miniature, as we say it in Turkish, or miniature. And the floor is yours, and you have 15 minutes.
Hello to everyone. First of all, I want to speak some sentences in Turkish. Hocam çok teşekkür ederim sizden ve sizin okuldan bu sempozyumu düzenlediğiniz için. Aslında ben Erasmus için İstanbul'dayım şimdi. Çok heveslenmiştim bu sempozyum için Konya geleceğim diye. Online olarak maalesef bu fırsat olmadı.
Nasip.
İnşallah nasip olmadı. İnşallah ileride bir gelirim inşallah Konya.
İnşallah, inşallah. You are always welcome to Konya.
Thank you.
So, are you doing a screen sharing?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's working now.
Uh-huh. So you are now in Istanbul, and
Yes.
you were hoping that this conference would be arranged face-to-face, but inshallah next time.
Yes, I'm working on my PhD thesis, and because of that, I'm here. Sorry about the delaying. I'm waiting for sharing.
It's okay, no problem. Mashallah, in this session we have two PhD candidates, which is amazing. I mean, even before completing your PhD, you are presenting in English, which is something very nice and courageous. So, inshallah, this will be a good start for you.
Thank
now
you.
We can see your screen.
Yes, you can see.
Yeah, the screen is yours.
Okay, my name is Sevda. I am a PhD student in Tabriz Islamic Art University, and the title of my paper is about content analysis of illustration of Rumi's miracles in Ottoman miniature, case study of illustrated versions of Tawafik al-Manaqib al-Aliyullah. First of all, I want to say you my abstract is exactly that I mentioned in my paper. Al-Manaqibs describing the life and deeds of one or more Safis are among the valuable works that independently depict the life history of Safis. The present study investigates the Tawafik al-Manaqib Awliyaullah, written by Abdul Wahhab ibn Jalaluddin Muhammad Medeni in 1540, which includes two versions. The first version was illustrated with 29 miniatures in 1590 and is currently being held in Morgan Library and Museum of New York under number M466. The second version was illustrated with 22 miniatures in 1599, which is currently protected in Topkapi Place Museum, Istanbul under number TSMT Revan 1479. Both illustrated versions are depicted in the Ottoman School of Miniature, 8 paintings of the Morgan's version and 8 paintings of the Topkapi version are directly related to Rumi theurgy. In order to study and recognize miracles and theurgy, one must first become familiar with the word theurgy and its classification according to the stains. Most mystics and most scholars agree on the permission of the emergence of theurgy to the saints and the righteous. In the same regard, this study intended to investigate 16 miniatures and their adapted into illustrated versions of Tawafik al-Manakib. The results indicate that most common type of theurgy repeated in the miniatures involve knowledge of the unseen, talking to animals, prayer acceptance, and Tay al-Ard. It means traveling the earth without moving by room. As you know, the mention of the purpose of my paper is to find miracles and theurgy in the Tawafik al-Manakib and its two versions that illustrated during the history. First of all, we have to know about the miracles, about the meaning of the miracles, and about the classification of miracles. As you know, miracle is an action that emanates from the saints, prophets, and righteous, and those chosen by the God. This action is an extraordinary action against the habits and beliefs of the ordinary people. Of course, theurgy are also example of breaking the habit. So we have 13 theurgy and miracles in the base of sources that I mentioned in my paper. First of all, the knowledge of the unseen, possession of their souls, possession of force and four elements of nature, hearing the voice of an invisible speaker. Number 5, his prayers is always acceptance, possession of object. Number 7, creating objects from the unseen or unexpected positions, spiritual connection with animals and inanimate objects, obedience of animals and souls from the person, talking to animals and trees, being helped by the animals and emergencies, being gentle with predatory and deadly animals. Tay al-Ard, as you know, it means covering a long distance in the twinkling of an eye. So we want to find these miracles and the type of this theurgy in the pictures and miniatures. First of all, we have 3 sources about the theurgy and the life of Rumi. The first and important sources is Valadname. Is the first references. It's written by Sultan Valad, son of Rumi, in 1291, which involves approximately 5,000 verses, also involving sections about the life of Rumi. The second sources is the Pasalar's treatise, which was written by one of the Rumi's disciples named Firun ibn Ahmad Pasalar. And the third is Manakib al-Arifin, which is written by Shamsuddin Ahmad Aflaki, Arifin, between 1318 to 1353. At this part, I want to introduce 2 versions that was illustrated from the Tawafik al-Manakib. As you know, the version of Tawafik al-Manakib is written by Abdul Wahhab ibn Jalaluddin, which was written in 1540 as a summary and edited work of Manakib al-Arifin al-Aflaki. The Aflaki version was written by the order of Rumi's grandson, and so the efforts of Ahmad Aflaki in 1353. This work is about Rumi and his disciplines and a narration about his theurgy. We have 2 illustrated versions. This edition with 29 drawings is now protected in the Morgan Museum of New York under number M466. The next version was illustrated in the year 1599 and again according to the style of Ottoman Baghdad, and is now housed in Topkapi Place Museum, Istanbul under number TSMK Revan 1479. We have 16 miniature, 8 paintings of the Morgan versions, and 8 paintings from the Topkapi Place Museum. And these 16 miniature directly related to Rumi's miracles and his theurgy. And this section, I want to introduce the miniature of in these two versions. Because I don't want to waste your time, I couldn't explain the narration of the pictures each one by one. So I just want to say you the conclusion of the narration and say to you the type of the theology in each picture. For example, the 8th picture is belong to the Morgan Museum. In this picture, Rumi's theology is classification in 3 theology: knowledge of the unseen, possession of the soul and thoughts of human beings, Te-al-Ard. The second narration, possession of souls, researching the dead. The next one is about possession of object, knowledge of the unseen, telling of location of lost people. All the narration and story is written in my paper in detail, but now I just say to you the type of theology. This one is the knowledge of unseen, possession of soul and thoughts of human beings. The next one is about the knowledge of unseen, possession of souls and thoughts of human beings. This is about obedience of animals, talking to animals, being gentle with deadly and wild animals. And this type and this picture, Rumi, obedience of animals, talking to animals. Obedience of animals, talking to the animals. And from this part, the second 8 pictures is belong to Topkapi Place Museum versions. In this narration, Rumi have Te-al-Ard theology and prayer acceptance. This is about obedience of animals, talking to animals, being gentle with deadly and wild animals, and it's the same narration that illustrated in previous version. And this is about the obedience of animal and talking to animals. The first 3 pictures I take from Topkapi Museum. And this is about Te-al-Ard, praying acceptance. This is about the praying acceptance, obedience of object and animals, position of objects. And this is the Rumi's theology, the knowledge of the unseen, possession of the soul and thoughts of human beings. Knowledge of unseen, possession of soul and thoughts of human beings. And the last one is about possession of souls, healing the patients, knowledge of the unseen, telling the future. So as a conclusion, we can say manaqibs are among the valuable works which have independently illustrated the life of Sufis. In these manaqibs, their way of life, their virtues, and their disciplines are expressed. One of the manaqibs written about Rumi is Sawaqif al-Manaqib Awliyaullah Medeni, which has received less attention in Rumi's literature, and this negligence has also affected the illustration of this version in Iran. Such that only illustrated versions are available and identified hitherto. This version was illustrated by the Ottoman according to Ottoman Baghdad method. The first version was 29 miniature is kept in Morgan Museum of New York, and the next version with 22 miniature is kept in the Topkapi Place Museum, Istanbul. 8 portraits of each version are directly related to Rumi's theology, and other portraits are related to the theology of the children or disciplines of Rumi, or are not included in the classification of the theology. Among these 16 miniatures, 2 anecdotes are illustrated in 2 versions. Examining other drawing and matching them with the classification of types of theology, it can be concluded that the theology of knowledge of the unseen has the highest frequency and repetition in the miniatures, the different type of which are repeated 7 times in the portrait of the 2 versions. Possessions of souls and thoughts have been depicted 4 times, telling the location of the lost people, position of dream, and telling the future have been depicted once. The next recurring theology in the portrait is the animals, obedience to Rumi and talking to them, each of which is repeated 6 and 5 times respectively. Furthermore, the results indicate that in all cases there is complete harmony and correspondence between the portrait and the original text of the story. The type of theology in the portrait can be matched with the type of classified theology, such that we encounter 2 or more types of theology sometimes in a story at the same time. In the same regard, the miniaturist has always tried to depict the climax of the story. That's the emergency of theology. Thank you for attention.
Okay, thank you very much for presenting these interesting miniatures. My field is Islamic law, so miniature is also seen as an Islamic art because it is not directly drawing or painting, but it has no third dimension, so it's regarded as an Islamic art because it's not in the part of the ban of making pictures, as you know. And in this presentation we have seen pictures or miniatures of Keramat of Celaleddin Rumi, which is interesting and which is directly connected with Konya.
Yes.
Which you should have presented in Konya.
Yes.
Inshallah next time. Thank you very much.
I hope so.
And by the way, the word in Turkish we use for tayyil ard, we use tayyi zaman or tayyi mekan. Mostly we use tayyi mekan or tayyi zaman and not art. Maybe it's more Turkish, I don't know. We use tayyi zaman or tayyi mekan instead of...
we use the same words in Persian.
Also,
yes.
Okay. But the word tayyul ard, I think it's Arabic, right? Or I don't know.
Yes, Arabic.
But they have the same meaning.
Yes.
In terms of keramet. So, for example, for some Ottoman sultans, it is said that they have been seen in Hajj. Although they never went to Hajj, they have been seen in Hajj, and this is regarded as tayyi mekan, etc. So, very interesting keramets. Okay, thank you very much for all these 3 presentations, and especially thank you as the chair for the timing, which is excellent. I mean, 15 minutes. The most important task of the chairman is to do the timing. You know, we are the bad police. So we had no problems, alhamdulillah. Everybody's timing was perfect. Thank you very much for this. And now we can pass to the Q&A session, so the questions and comments session. If any of the attendees have any questions, they can raise these questions, or if they have any comments, they may write their comments, or they may raise their hands so we can hear them. Or if there are no questions or any comments, actually I can ask a couple of questions to you if you have time. So, for example, when I was listening to the first speaker, Dr. Zehra, the pictures of Lat, Menat, Uzza, etc., all these pictures, are they by new Persian artists, or are they in historical works, all these pictures of these Arabic goddesses? Dr. Zehra.
Okay.
The pictures.
Thank you very much.
Screen, you know, they are very cute pictures. But are they old pictures or new pictures of Iranian artists?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, these pictures are modern, and in modern scholars, this picture are popular, and these are not from ancient old. From ancient old, from pre-Islamic Arabia, we have not almost any picture from Arabian goddesses, and all pictures and all skeletal from the Arabian goddesses, Arabian deities have been destroyed during the Islamic period. And almost we have not any picture from that time and that period.
Mm-hmm. And these pictures, are they from Iranian artists or other artists? Do you know?
No. I search in internet and find this picture. And the roots of this picture is not known for me. And I don't know that this picture were from Iranian.
I see.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. But it gave a perspective and a very cute presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And my second question is to the second speaker, which is, what do you think about the Hurufiya and the Abu al-Afiya sect in terms of their relation with Islam? Can we see them as a part of Islam, or because of their heretical beliefs, they have some problematic beliefs? Can we say that they are out of Islam? So maybe it's a hard question, but how do you see them? Can we see them as a part of the Muslim community, or are they heretical movements that are completely out of Islam? What do you think about that?
If I truly understand your question, I think it's the Mesopotamian. It's original from, and because of Islam and Hebrew have the same common, and have a very common. So it's we couldn't say which one is first, or it's Mesopotamian that is in Hebrew, and then in Islam, and in the same time that rise in philosophy thought, I think.
And the followers of these sects, Hurufiya, the followers, how do they define themselves? Do they say we are Muslims, or how is their own definitions? How do they define themselves? Do you know about this?
No, I don't know. But I think they say we are Muslims.
We are Muslims.
But it's not, yes, but it's not exactly Sunni or Shiism. It's not exactly which one is.
Yeah. They have very problematic views. Maybe they are even not neither Sunni nor Shia. Okay, thank you. And let me check if I have a question for the last presentation. No, only my comment about Tayyi Mekan, Tayyi Zaman, and I already talked about it. So if you have no other comments or questions, I think then we can stop here and end this session of the day, which is the last session. Thank you very much for being part of this conference and presenting your paper, all of you from Iran. It's a pleasure to having you all here, although virtually. Inshallah, one day we can come together face to face in Konya, in the city of Rumi, and meet face to face, inshallah. And I would like also thank to all the organizers of this conference, and thank you very much for your attention, for your participation, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.